The afternoon sun felt warm on my skin as I sat in my son's backyard, just listening to the distant giggles of my grandchildren. It was one of those perfect, impossibly peaceful days in late summer, the kind that feels like a gift. The air smelled like freshly cut grass and the sweet perfume of the rose bushes I'd helped my son, David, plant years ago. I had my eyes closed, just soaking it all in, feeling deeply content. It was a perfect, peaceful day, right up until I heard it. It was my son's voice, low and sharp, coming through the open kitchen window. He was talking to his wife, Jessica. His tone was clipped, stripped of all warmth like a razor blade. And then he said 5 words that didn't just break my heart. They vaporized it, leaving a black hole where it used to be. Why is she still alive? A cold, electric shock shot through me. My breath caught in my throat. Every muscle in my body was screaming at me to get up, to run, to storm into that kitchen and make him say those words to my face. I wanted to see his eyes as he said it, but I didn't. I stayed frozen in that patio chair, the sun suddenly feeling cold on my skin. A different instinct took over, something quieter but so much stronger. I stayed, because right then, with the sound of my own blood roaring in my ears, I knew there was a bitter, poisoned truth I needed to uncover, no matter how much it was going to destroy me. What is your opinion? Does this betrayal deserve punishment? Hit subscribe right now so you don't miss the rest of this story. And let me know in the comments where you are listening from, to understand why this hurt so much, why it felt like the complete demolition of my reality. You have to know about my relationship with David, or at least the one I thought we had. I'm Clara. I'm 67, and for more than half my life, my world revolved around my son. My husband, Robert, died from a sudden heart attack when David was just 10. In the blink of an eye, it was just the 2 of us against the world. I worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, juggling bookkeeping during the day and waitressing at night. Also, he'd never feel the sting of our loss financially. My life became a series of sacrifices, but I never once thought of them that way. They were just what a mother does. I didn't date. I didn't take vacations. My focus was singular, giving David the foundation for a life better than mine. When he wanted to go to the state university, I cashed in the savings bonds Robert had left for my own retirement to make sure he graduated debt-free. When he got his first real job and wanted a car, I co-signed the loan without a second thought. My credit was his credit. My money was his money. That's just how it was. Then he met Jessica. She was bright and ambitious, and I was so happy for him. When they got married, I gave them a big chunk of my savings, the money I'd been putting away since David left for college. I wanted them to have a good start, to not have the worries I always had. And when they found this house, this beautiful 4-bedroom with the big backyard, they were short on the down payment. David came to me, looking so defeated, saying they were going to lose it. So I took out a home equity loan on my own small, paid-off house. My house. The one Robert and I had bought together. I handed them the check, and the look of relief on David's face was all the thanks I needed. Soon, the grandkids came along, Liam and then Chloe. My absolute joy. Since David and Jessica both worked demanding jobs, I became their default, full-time, unpaid nanny. I drive the 40 minutes to their house 3 or 4 days a week, getting there at 7 a.m. and often not leaving until after 8 p.m. I cooked, cleaned, did laundry, and shuttled the kids to school, soccer, and ballet. I loved it, I truly did. I cherished every single moment with those kids. But I was tired. My arthritis was getting worse, and some days, the exhaustion was bone deep. Jessica would make little comments, always coated in a thin layer of concern. "Oh, Clara, you look so worn out. Are you sure you're up for this?" she'd say, while handing me a pile of the kids' laundry. Or, "We've been thinking, maybe it's time you sold your house. It's just too big for you, and the upkeep must be a fortune. You could move into a nice little condo, something more manageable." I always brushed it off. "She's just being practical," I'd tell myself. "She worries." But now, sitting in the backyard, with my son's cruel question echoing in my head, those practical suggestions felt different. They felt like nudges, pushes toward being smaller, less present, less of a problem. This past year, the comments got more frequent. They started talking about my finances, always pretending it was about helping me plan for the future. "Mom, we need to make sure you have a power of attorney set up," David said a few months ago, "just in case, so I can handle your bills if you ever can't." It sounded responsible. It sounded like a loving son. Of course, I agreed. Why wouldn't I? He was my son. I trusted him with my life, a life I had, it turned out, so inconveniently continued to live. The betrayal I felt wasn't just about those 5 words. It was the foundation of my entire life crumbling. Every sacrifice, every late night, every dollar I'd given. It all suddenly felt like a series of business transactions that had stopped paying off for him. I wasn't a mother in his eyes. I was an investment that had matured and was now just taking up space. My heart was a jackhammer against my ribs. But on the outside, I was a statue. I heard a chair scrape in the kitchen. Then Jessica's voice, softer than his but just as sharp. "David, don't say that. What if she heard you?" "She didn't hear me," he scoffed. "She's probably fallen asleep out there again." Honestly, it's getting to be a lot. The driving back and forth. The worrying. It's a burden, Jess. We're supposed to be in the prime of our lives, not managing. This, a burden. That word landed like a punch. The shock was so profound it was almost clarifying, like being doused with ice water in a dead sleep. The pain was immense, but for the first time, I was wide awake. The fog of my maternal devotion started to burn away, and I saw everything clearly. My value as a person, as his mother, had just been summed up and dismissed in one callous conversation. I had planned to stay the whole week, my usual visit to help out. Now, that week turned from a family visit into an undercover operation. I knew I couldn't confront them. If I did, they'd deny it. They'd gaslight me, call me senile, say I misheard. David would wrap me in a hug, his face a perfect mask of concern, and tell me he loved me, and the lie would hurt more than the truth. No, I had to stay quiet. I had to watch. I had to figure out how deep this rot went. That night at dinner, I became an actress. I smiled, asked the kids about school, and told Jessica the meal was lovely. I looked at my son across the table, searching his face for any sign of the man who wished I was dead. I saw nothing, just a tired, stressed, middle-aged man complaining about his job. He looked right through me. I was part of the furniture. Over the next few days, I watched everything through a new, horrifyingly clear lens. I noticed how they talked to me like I was a child. "Mom, did you remember to take your blood pressure pill?" David would ask, his voice dripping with fake concern. I'd been managing my own medication for 20 years. I noticed how Jessica, watched me play with the kids, her eyes not filled with gratitude, but with something that looked like assessment. She was sizing up my stamina, my competence. The escalation came on Wednesday. I was reading a story to Chloe in the living room when Jessica walked in, holding a stack of papers and a pen. She had that bright, false smile plastered on her face. "Clara, so glad I caught you with a free moment," she started, her voice airy. "David and I were just talking, and we really think it's time we got your affairs in order. Just to make things easier down the road. You know." She put the papers on the coffee table. I saw the words durable power of attorney and healthcare directive. "This one," she said, tapping the first document, "just gives David the ability to manage your finances if you're ever hospitalized or unable to. And this one," she moved to the next, "lets us make medical decisions. We just need you to sign at the bottom. We can even get it notarized this afternoon." My blood ran cold. This was it. This was the plan. They didn't just want me gone. They wanted control of what I left behind. The house equity loan I'd taken for them was a line item on my assets, not theirs. My paid-off house, my retirement savings. It was all still in my name. They wanted to manage it all. The word manageable echoed in my head. They wanted to manage me, and when that was no longer an option, manage my estate. I looked at her, this woman my son had chosen, and felt a chilling emptiness. I smiled back, a slow, gentle smile that didn't reach my eyes. "Oh, Jessica, thank you for being so thoughtful," I said, my voice sweet as poison. "You and David are always looking out for me. But you know, this legal stuff is so complicated. I'd feel more comfortable having my own lawyer look it over first, just to make sure I understand everything." A flash of annoyance crossed her eyes, quick but unmistakable. She recovered, her smile tightening. "Of course. That's a good idea. We just wanted to save you the expense." "Oh, don't you worry about the expense, dear," I said, patting her hand. "I think I can manage it." She retreated, taking her papers with her. The battle lines had been drawn, but only I knew a war was coming. They thought they were dealing with a frail, fading old woman. They had no idea they were dealing with the woman who clawed her way out of grief and poverty to give them the very life they were now trying to steal. They underestimated me, and that was going to be their most expensive mistake. Right then, I decided I was done being the quiet, helpful foundation they could stand on while wishing I would disappear. The performance was over. When I left, at the end of the week, I hugged my grandchildren tightly, a lump in my throat. This wasn't just goodbye for now. It was goodbye to the life I knew. I gave David and Jessica a polite, distant smile. "Thank you for having me," I said, the words tasting like ash. The 40-minute drive home was a blur of righteous fury and deep sorrow. The tears finally came, hot and bitter, not for the son I'd lost, but for the mother who'd been a fool for so long. By the time I pulled into my own driveway, the tears were gone, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. The next Monday, I didn't drive to David's. I drove to the best estate planning attorney in my town. I walked in and told the receptionist I needed to draw up a new will and trust, effective immediately. Sitting across from Mr. Harrison, a kind-faced man in his late 60s, I laid out the plan. I didn't tell him the whole ugly story. I didn't need his pity. I just needed his expertise. First, we revoked the old will, the one leaving everything to David. The new will was simple. A few sentimental items went to old friends. The bulk of my estate, However, my house, my savings, my life insurance was to be placed into an irrevocable trust. The beneficiaries of this trust, I said, my voice steady, will be my grandchildren, Liam and Chloe. Mr. Harrison nodded. And the trustee? Not their father, I said firmly. I want a corporate trustee. A bank. Someone impartial. We spent the next hour structuring it. The trust would pay for their college educations, but they wouldn't get their full inheritance until they each turned 30. There were rules for health emergencies and a down payment on a first home. But the most important clause, the one I insisted on, was crystal clear. David and Jessica would have no control, no access, and no say in the funds. Next, we dealt with the power of attorney. I signed a new one, naming Mr. Harrison as my primary agent and my best friend, Carol, as secondary. David was removed completely. We did the same for the healthcare directive. The people wishing I wasn't alive would no longer be in charge of my life or death decisions. The last step was the most painful and the most liberating. My house, the home Robert and I had shared, the home I'd leveraged for my son. I had always planned for David to inherit it. Now, I signed the papers to place it into the trust as well. It would be sold when I died, and the money would go to the grandchildren. David would never set foot in it as its owner. I walked out of that office feeling lighter. The weight of a lifetime of thankless obligation was gone. I had taken back control. I gave it a week. Then I told Mr. Harrison to send the letters, formally notifying David that he had been removed as executor, beneficiary, and power of attorney. The call came on a Tuesday. I was in my garden, planting new roses, ones just for me. My phone rang. David. I let it go to voicemail. He called again and again. On the fourth try, I answered, putting the phone on speaker. Mom, what is this? I got a letter from a lawyer. It says you've cut me out of everything. This has to be a mistake. His voice was a frantic squeal. It's no mistake, David, I said calmly. But why? The will, the power of attorney. Mom, you can't do this. I'm your son. I'm supposed to take care of you. Is that what you call it? I asked, my voice dangerously quiet. Taking care of me? Because from where I was sitting, it sounded a lot like you were just waiting for me to die. Silence. A thick, guilty silence that was more damning than any confession. I don't know what you're talking about, he finally stammered. I was in your backyard, David, by the roses. The kitchen window was open. I heard you. I heard everything. I heard a sharp intake of breath, a choked, sputtering sound. He was caught. Mom, it wasn't. I didn't mean it like that. He scrambled, panic turning to desperation. I was just stressed. It's been hard with work, and the kids, and the burden of having a mother who is still alive. I finished for him. You made your feelings perfectly clear, so I've decided to unburden you. You no longer have to worry about managing me, or my affairs, or my money. You're free. You've cut me off. What about the house? What about everything you promised? The sheer, breathtaking entitlement was astounding. Those promises were made by a mother to a son she thought loved her. I said, that woman is gone. You killed her. The grandchildren will be taken care of. As for you and Jessica, you're on your own. I suggest you start living within your means. I hung up. I didn't block his number. I wanted him to call, to text, to leave voicemails filled with rage and pleading. I wanted him to know I was listening to his desperation and choosing to ignore it. That was my revenge. Not a fiery fight, but a cold, quiet, permanent closing of a door if this story moved. You hit the subscribe button to hear the next untold tale. And, most importantly, let me know in the comments. What would you have done in this situation? It's been 6 months. I've gotten dozens of furious texts, tearful voicemails, and a long, rambling letter from Jessica about forgiveness. I haven't responded. I heard from a cousin that they've put their house on the market. Turns out, they couldn't afford the mortgage and their lifestyle without my help. The pain of my son's betrayal isn't gone. It's a scar I'll carry forever. Some days, it aches for the family I thought I had. But a new feeling is growing. Alongside it, peace. I sold my little house, the one filled with so many ghosts, and bought a small, beautiful condo in a community for active seniors, to states away. I've joined a book club and a gardening group. I'm taking a painting class. I'm making friends who see me for who I am now, not for what I can give them. I talk to my grandkids on video calls twice a week, careful to keep it light and about them. They are innocent in all of this, and my love for them is the one thing that remains untarnished. I heard my son ask why I was still alive, and in the end, his cruel question gave me the answer. I am still alive to reclaim my life. I am still alive to learn that a mother's love shouldn't be a blank check for disrespect. I am still alive to build a future that belongs to no one but me. I didn't leave that day because I needed to see the truth. And the truth, as devastating as it was, set me free.